Christa Hagearty, president of Dependable Cleaners. Dependable was founded by my grandparents back in 1944. I'm the third generation to run the company. We've been in business 78 years. So I grew up working in the family business, doing all different types of jobs to learn every aspect of it. When I was in college, I started to branch out and do other internships with other industries. My father felt it was really important that anybody that came into management in the family business, that they worked some significant time outside the business to learn new things, bring in new skills. I think that was actually probably the best advice that we got. So after 5 years being out, I returned to the business. When it became clear to my father and I that we wanted to transition me to running the business, we came up with a 3-year plan, and it was very clear each year what I would be responsible for, what he would be responsible for. The other thing that we did was we had these imaginary hats. So when we were having a conversation, if there was a blurring of the lines between father, daughter, owner, employee type situation, I would say, Dad, are you wearing your dad cap? Are you wearing your owner hat? And he would say the same thing back to me. It really helped us to take out some of the personal things. The other thing I found is that when I came back into the business, my kids were very young. I have 3 awesome kids, and I needed some boundaries. My father loved to talk business 100% of the time. When we were at family events, it was really important to me to say, I need a break. I need to just focus on being a mom and being part of the family. And so there were different things like that where my father and I learned different boundaries and how to work together. When I first came into Dependable, we were 1/3 of the size. And my father and I worked with a strategy consultant, and we grew the business to $50 million company. I have to say, when I first came back into the business and started going to industry stuff, there were some old timers that would put their arm around me and say, like, so when is your husband going to join to run it? And I would look at them and say, like, I'm the one that has the MBA. I'm the one that has been working in the business. I don't think that gender is the differentiating factor here. And I think they always looked at me kind of surprised that I would push back in that way. At first, I took some of those things personally, and then I had to realize that this was more about them, and that, even though I didn't like what they said, there were a lot of parts about that person that were good-hearted and wonderful, and I had things to learn from them. And I had to realize that, it was more important what was in my heart and what I believed in myself than it was about what anybody else. That's not always easy. Not always easy. Although I have to say the last 2 years with COVID have definitely brought out our biggest strengths and also challenged us and challenged me personally quite a bit. When the world was falling apart in March 2020 and our sales went down 90%, the conventional wisdom was to lay everybody off, and I couldn't do that. I have a long-term view of how we run the company, and I want to balance the business needs, the team needs, the client needs, and the community needs. And it just seemed wrong on all of those parts to do that. And so we had to get very creative with how we worked with our team, with how we worked with all the government programs, and how we worked with all of our vendors, our landlords. It truly took a village to get through the last 2 years. Our culture has a culture of personal responsibility. So it wasn't like we had to lay down a ton of rules. It was about how do we keep each other safe, and how do we understand how to keep ourselves healthy as possible, and how do we keep each other as healthy as possible. Those are the things that make me smile in the middle of the night. And those are the things that I'm so appreciate as I look back on the last 2 years. When we were 90% down, one of the important things was to talk with each of our vendors and to talk confidently about how we felt we could get through this. But at this point, we all needed to work together. And so it's, everybody wanted their bill paid, but we had to pay a little bit every week to all of our vendors. And then with our team also having it was all about all of us, not one of us. So like, for example, there were team members who were used to getting overtime. Instead, we said, we're going to do our best to get everybody to full employment, but that means no overtime. It means that we're going to try and keep everybody as equal as possible. We also figured out, you know, obviously when we were 90% down, we couldn't keep everybody at full employment. So we utilized unemployment, but everybody then was working an equal number of hours here and getting unemployment to make the rest of it. And then as soon as we could, we started bringing people back, et cetera, et cetera. When I took over the business, my kids were very little, and I thought I was irreplaceable, that I had to do so much and that I had to be visible all the time. And because of that, I had very short maternity leaves, and I missed a lot of things of my kids growing up. I realize now that, there were ways of balancing all of that, and ways that I could have been more present for my family at different points. But you know what? That's something that it took a while to learn. Really, so I try, some days I feel guilt about that. And other days I'm able to embrace and say, be kind to yourself. You did the best job you could. Um, and the kids are awesome. We're a smaller company. We have a couple hundred employees, and many of them have been with me 10, 15, 20 years. And I hope that the ones that have only been here a few years will be with me for 10, 15 years. I know a lot of their stories. I know a lot of their families. So I care about them. But I also believe that long-term connection is also important for our clients, because that's how we take the best care of our clients' clothing as well, is by taking that long-term view. And honestly, I don't know how to run a company any other way. There are leaders in my industry who are much better at making more money and, a much stricter way of running, but that's not who I am. It's not how I run. So I think it's just part of the culture of the company, but part of who I am and how I want to run the company. To find us, we're obviously have a website, dependablecleaners.com. We also have an app that's in both Google and the Android stores, as well as the Apple stores. Dependable Cleaners in Boston, Quincy, Massachusetts. And both of the website and the app, you can sign up for our delivery service. You can discover all of our stores. We have 12 stores throughout Boston, South Shore, Metro West. And then we have delivery services throughout Boston, slightly north, Metro West, and throughout the South Shore. Over 50 communities that we cover.